So I think we're going to do this a little bit differently today, and that you're going to join along with me. But I think you probably need some words. Okay, there you go. You got some words there, so at least we're on the same translation, right? Here. So give you a moment to see that it's up here, and follow, and please follow along and join me. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruit of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine.
Before you have to listen for me for too long, if you will, take a couple of minutes and hop up, greet somebody that you haven't greeted yet this morning, or somebody that's close by, or one of our guests this morning. Good sound to hear. It's always a good sound because that means at least it's good because at least you found one other person that you like and you can talk to for a second. But it actually sounds like much more than that. It sounds like family. That's when we do that kind of thing. It sounds like family. Good, good, good. Welcome to those that are here for the first time. I know some are traveling through, and as I shared with them, I said, wow, we keep using this 2-hour time frame. No matter you go out 2 hours in any direction, there's somewhere to see, someplace to do. I have to laugh, though, at a lot of places have Indian names, and we've seen that in several places growing up. We saw that a lot. And here, it's naming it after people. I mean, it's King of Prussia. And that's been funny, and you realize you should give that location to people on the phone, you're placing your order or whatever, and they're not sure how to do that, especially if it doesn't all fit on the line. They don't know how to handle that. And then yesterday we were in Jim Thorpe, and I'm thinking, well, that's not a place, that's a person. I'm like, no, it's really a place. That's got kind of an interesting story behind it, how all that came came out to be. So you just never know. Yeah, and then some of these names, you see them on the sign. It's like, I have no idea how to pronounce that. And then you don't ever want to say it out loud in that place, because then you just indicate that I'm not from here. And there's enough indicators for that already. But yeah, traveling's interesting. But yeah, naming it after people. So Jim Thorpe. Anybody been to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania? Yeah. It's a beautiful part of the area this time of year. That's what we went to see. But Jennifer was saying that. I thought, Jim Thorpe, that's him, not there. And it's both. I don't know if anyone here has a cabin in Minnesota. Don't raise your hand. I don't want to know. Has a cabin in Minnesota. If you do, I have some important information that may save you some headaches. But if you don't have, there may be some for sale soon. There's an attorney there that he's found a solution to a 2,000-year-old, it's older than that, 2,000-year-old problem. It's called greed. And his solution is a cabin trust seminar. From his website, he said the seminars are about saving the one piece of property you want to stay in the family, the cabin. If your kids have fought over pizza toppings, imagine what will happen when you're not there to referee fights over the family cabin. I'll give you just a minute to get yourself collected, okay? Cabin trust, capital C, capital T, cabin trust, keep your family from tearing itself apart over the family cabin when you're gone. So I don't know if our state has such a thing or not. I didn't look into it. I know Minnesota does. So there's this man in the crowd that he calls out to Jesus about something like this. Not the pizza topping part, but about the estate dispute. Hollers out to Jesus, but the answers that Jesus gave didn't result in a cabin trust seminar, but it did result in some principles that we would do well to note, whether we're cabin owners or not. First of all, let's go to Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12. I want us to hear what Jesus said, but I want to hear what was said to him that hadn't given the answers that I want us to understand this morning. Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Listen for what's called out. Listen for how Jesus responds. Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" And then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I'll store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. And then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whomever stores up things for themselves, but's not rich towards God." So Jesus didn't give this man a cabin trust seminar or an estate seminar, but what he does give him is a trust and wealth story. And it's in this story or in this parable that first of all we learn that our wealth must not make us dissatisfied. Our wealth must not make us dissatisfied. We don't know if the complaining brother was rich or not. As he hollers out from the crowd, we don't know that. We just don't have that information. But we do know that Jesus identified his problem as greed. He wasn't happy with what he had. He wasn't satisfied with what he had. Wealth has so much power that even if you don't have it, it can cause problems. There's just a lot of things in life that don't work that way. Wealth's not one of them. If you don't have it, it can cause problems. On the other hand, this man in the parable, this story that Jesus tells, he was rich, and then he still battled this greedy dissatisfaction. Shouldn't be a problem for any of us, though. And why? Well, because I did some looking. Forbes' list of the 400 richest Americans. This is as of Thursday. Now, I say Thursday. I'll explain it in a minute. Well, I'll explain it now. So if this is up Thursday, I had to laugh. I love when things like this happen. Thursday was been Friday night. the number 1 and 2, Bob, can you go back one more? And that's supposed to go away. That's my fault. We'll make there we go. And when it fades away this time, we'll leave it. Number 1 and 2 have switched. They switched Friday night. Jeff Bezos, Amazon guy, he's now number 1. Overnight, the Amazon stock went through the roof, and he moved into the number 1 position, surpassing Bill Gates, who's held it for quite a while. So lots of big money, but overnight, that's a pretty good thing to wake up to. You know, you've gained a few million, $1 billion, but none of you were on this list. As I went through the list of people, none of you were on it. I wasn't on it. I knew it up front, but I scanned for names that I was familiar with. Not there. And I didn't see any you were related to. There were a lot of Waltons in there of Walmart fame. So I can see where if your last name is Walt, you've kind of got a tie, and it's like, you know, my dad's brother's friend, you know, you go through is on number 17 on the list. And I didn't see any names. I didn't see last names that I knew on there. So there won't be any greedy estate issues with them. So dissatisfaction won't be a problem with us because we're not wealthy, right? We're not on that 400 or the top 800 or the top 2,000. You know, we're going to have to go out a little bit ways before we start picking up some of our names because we're not wealthy. We're not on that list. But I found there's another list, and my name's not on these either. Nearly half of the world's population, more than 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. More than 1.3 billion live in extreme poverty, less than $1.25 a day. It's a lot of people. 805 million people worldwide do not have enough food to eat. 805 million people don't have enough food to eat. I'm going to have a plate full of food, like many of you here, shortly. More than 750 million people lack adequate access to clean drinking water. Diarrhea caused by inadequate drinking water, sanitation, and hand hygiene kills an estimated 842,000 people every year globally, or approximately 2,300 people a day, just from dirty water. 775 million people are unable to read. So I wasn't on that first list, and I'm not on this one either. And the stats like this could go on and on. We can pick our categories, and they're staggering numbers. But I'm not on this one either. If you are on this one, we want to help you. That's what this time together this morning is, what we're talking about. So if we're not on this list, these sad numbers, why would we be greedy for more? Why would we want more? Wealth must not make us dissatisfied. Why would we want more than food and shelter and clothing? But we do. Wealth must not make us dissatisfied, but it does. We're rich and we want more. 7 years ago, only 2% of the population in the U.S. owned a tablet or an iPad. 2%. Right now, it's over 50%. It's kind of an interesting number. Almost 98% of the households in the U.S. have TV. That's a lot of TVs. 10 years ago, 20% of the world, 20% of the U.S. population owns cell phones. Any guess on what the number is now? 10 years ago, 20%. Any guess on now? 95%. TV viewing in the U.S. averages almost 38 hours a week per person on average. So it means there's some that don't watch a whole lot, and there's other ones that help get the average up there. 38 hours a week. And then others will die tonight because they don't have enough to eat or because they can't get to a doctor. Our wealth must not make us dissatisfied. But our wealth must not make us selfish. This rich man in Jesus' parable, he has an eye problem. And it's not the kind that LASIK surgery can help at all. It's a different kind of eye problem. Listen to verses 18 and 19. Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. There I will store up my surplus grain, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." The eye problem was selfishness. Our wealth must not make us selfish. What would have been a better choice for him to make? Several, all kinds of things he could have. Anything would have seemed to be better than this. I have too much. Maybe I'll sell cheaper this season. Or I have more than usual, so I'll give some to that family that lost the farm. Maybe, what a great harvest. What a great harvest. I'll get a hold of my friends, see if they know anybody that needs any. Farmer or no, it makes no difference. You see, our decisions don't always have to be logical. Those just even seem out of place as I describe them. But our decisions don't always have to be logical, but they always have to be godly. What we do doesn't always have to make sense, but it always has to be godly. Instead of selling cheaper, the man makes plans to get a bigger barn, a bigger closet, a bigger garage, buy the bigger car, move to the bigger house, move into the bigger office, get more cloud storage, bigger account, get the bigger yard, the biggest piece of the cake, the shirt with the biggest price tag, phone with the biggest screen. He kind of was doing what we often do. Our wealth must not make us selfish. It was Leadership Magazine several years ago told of a story of a preacher named John Wesley. The story is in several different places, but it talks about his unselfishness when it came to money. In 1731, Wesley began to limit his expenses, this article says, so that he would have more money to give to the poor. He records that one year his income was 30 pounds, and his living expenses 28 pounds, so he had 2 pounds to give away. But the next year his income doubled, and he still managed to live on 28 pounds. So he had 32 pounds to give to the poor. In the third year, his income jumped to 90 pounds. But instead of letting his expenses rise with his income, he kept them to 28 pounds, and he gave away 62. In the fourth year, he received 120 pounds, and as before, his expenses were 28, so his giving rose to 92. Wesley felt that the Christian should not merely tithe, the author says, but give away all extra income once the family and creditors were taken care of. He believed that with increasing income, what should rise is not the Christian standard of living, but the standard of giving. It's an interesting way to put it. When we put others before ourselves, we're not being greedy. When we put others before ourselves, we don't really care how the inheritance is divided. When we put others before ourselves, we're not first. I think Jesus said something about first being last. So the questions are, whom do you last share a meal with? And I ask myself too, whom do we last share a meal with? As we look at our credit card statement or our bank statement, does it reflect an eye problem? Not the LASIK kind, the other kind. And have we shown children, whether our own or somebody else, how we share grown-up toys and those things that we own? Have we shown them how we continue to share even as we get taller? Our wealth must not make us dissatisfied. Our wealth must not make us selfish. But our wealth must make us thankful. Listen to verses 20 and 21. But God said to him, "You fool." The one who said just a moment ago, "Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." You fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. And then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whomever stores up things for themselves, but's not rich toward God. The problem is this man made Wall Street proud. He maneuvered himself for prime economic gain. I mean, he can be doing seminars in Minnesota. This is good. He made his investors proud. He used what he had and got more out of it. Nice job. Good. Where do I sign up on how to do that? He made himself proud. He thought his last harvest was good, but this one, this is even bigger. And God said, tomorrow your name's going to be at the top of the obituaries. So Jesus says to be rich toward God. But what does that look like? How can we be rich toward God? Is it putting more money in the collection tray? Well, Jesus here doesn't say anything about collection trays getting passed. Giving to nonprofit groups. Maybe that's kind of where he's going with. But there's nothing said here about tax deductions. So what is it to be rich toward God then? The rich man showed us what it doesn't look like. Being rich is being thankful. Being rich is being thankful. And being thankful matters when your life is demanded from you. Being rich is also using the gift the way it was intended to be used. Since we've been here, I don't know if there's a class setting or the sermon setting, talked about giving a child a dump truck. Let me change it up in case you heard it. We'll make it sound a little different. It's the big yellow bulldozer. You give the little boy the big yellow bulldozer. He takes it and goes into his room. You feel good. You know he feels good. And he comes back out. I want more bulldozers. What? I want more bulldozers. Well, you ungrateful little brat. We don't say that. We think it. But you give it to him, and he goes and plays with it for a little while, and then comes back in and says he's going to go outside. He's going to get some friends, wants to play. Friends are over, and they're out in the backyard. They're playing with the bulldozer, and they've got the dirt going. It's like, yes, that's what it's about. That's the gift, the way it was meant to be used. Thank God that He's given you food today at lunch. And then ask Him how you can use it. He might want you to do something absurd with it. Like maybe not eat at this time and share it or whatever. He's a big God. He'll use all kinds of things. Start reading in Genesis. You'll get some good examples of Him doing that. Kind of ends about Revelation, where He just does some really weird things. All for Him, by His name. Thank God for your home or your paycheck, your education, investments, and ask Him how you can use them best. God, how can I use those? Wall Street might say, that's absurd. Your investors or somebody else in the house might say, that you're not going to do that. And you yourself might even say, that's just not even going to work. God says, try me. The gift giver is watching. We've got all these yellow bulldozers or whatever they are, all of these things. And the gift giver is watching to see what we're going to do with it. That's not a trick any more than if I give my girls something and it's like a trick. I wonder what they're going to use it. Going to take notes, going to use it in a sermon in a few weeks. No! And God doesn't work that way either. He's a good father to us. And how it must thrill Him when the things that we have we use in such a way that it comes back to Him. The gift giver's watching, and it's a good thing. Jesus told this disgruntled brother to be on his guard against greed. To drive the point home, He tells this parable about this rich man. And everything this man was, we are warned not to be. Everything that this rich man was, we are warned not to be. So I shouldn't be rich. You've missed the point of what Jesus has said. What about us? When it comes to our wealth, and if we're in this room, at least according to that one list, we're very wealthy. We're rich. We must not let that wealth or that richness make us dissatisfied and just keep wanting more We're so blessed. Number 2, we must not let wealth make us selfish. It's about having a bigger heart, not a bigger barn. That was his problem in the story. The bigness was in the wrong things. And 3, our wealth must make us thankful. The gift giver, the one who it all came from to begin with, he's watching. So wealth, it's causing problems in Judea, it looked like. Stirring up some problems in Minnesota. Sorry if you're from Minnesota. It's just where this attorney lives. But with God's help, we won't need an attorney to have any seminars in the city where we live. Because greed won't be a problem. Now, what will we do with what we have? Our ability to read, clean water, wow, food, our lives. What will we do? Because when I think of it that way, we're loaded. We're loaded. We can write checks all day on that. What will we do? I pray you hear Jesus. I pray you hear God. I pray you'll share what you have. As church family, we want to help you. We especially want to help you if there's some way those needs, those basic needs are not being met. We want to not ignore that. We want to do that. How can we help you do that? If you want to follow Jesus a little more closely, if you want to put Jesus on in baptism, if you want this group to be praying about something that hasn't already been shared, we want to do that too. We'll stand and sing together one more time. David.